Mongol armies versus Vietnam's bamboo forts. Sounds hopeless, right? Think again. In the next 17 minutes, arrows, elephants, and scorched earth cunning rewrite history as a tiny kingdom snatches victory from an unstoppable juggernaut. But first, I would want to introduce the unique approach of our channel. We would want to dig deeper into the why of history. Have we ever paused, in the quiet between textbook lines, to ask ourselves why history unfolded the way it did? We like to believe we acknowledge names, dates, battles etched in stone, yet how rarely do we truly understand the hidden currents that drove kings, generals, and entire nations toward glory or ruin. This channel exists to pursue those unanswered whys. Behind every resounding victory and every tragic defeat, behind every royal intrigue and every labyrinthine game of strategy, lie motives and fears locked inside minds we can only reconstruct through careful conjecture and relentless curiosity. Our premiere series, History Why, begins with a saga almost too improbable to be true. A diminutive kingdom that rose not once, not twice, but 3 times to shatter the ambitions of the most formidable empire the world had yet seen. Prepare for the full story, because history, like the human heart that shapes it, is never as simple as it appears on the surface. In the mid-13th century, the Mongol Empire stood as the most powerful force on earth. With a war machine that had crushed the Khwarezmian Shahs, sacked Baghdad, and shattered European knights, they commanded a transcontinental empire from Korea to Eastern Europe. At the time, Dai Viet was a prosperous but relatively small kingdom in Southeast Asia. Its terrain was difficult, but its armies were modest in scale. In pure numbers and logistics, the Mongols outmatched Dai Viet by at least 5 to 10 times in cavalry, siege capabilities, and regional influence. The first Mongol invasion of Dai Viet in 1258 was driven by a strategic objective: to secure the southern flank of Yunnan, consolidate control over former Dali kingdom territories, and force Dai Viet to submit as a vassal state like Champa in Korea. But what followed was not what the great Khans expected. They came like thunder, but the storm had a name: Mongols. Their steppe cavalry is the blade that had already sliced through China, Dali, and Tibet. Now they poured down upon this land in the damp gray of early spring. Tran Tai Tong stood atop the ridge of Bin Lanun. The wind tugged at his armor and fields stretched ahead. And behind him, a kingdom holding its breath. We do not hide, not this time. He was not born a warrior, but fate had scrawled his name onto the maps of invaders. War drums pounded, and then the war elephants advanced. Each step shook the ground. On their backs, armored men held spears like lightning rods. The first charge, glorious. The Mongol and Dali lines bent. Screams tore the sky, and the famed Mongol cavalry scattered. For a fleeting moment there is hope, real, heavy, and bright. Perhaps this time will be different. But war is not made for those who dream. From the forest's edge, Aju moved, not with rage, with method and precision cold as steel. He did not strike the elephants. He struck the space between them, split the lines, isolate the squads, circle, crush, and silence. Then the Dai Viet formations broke apart like clay vessels under sudden flood. The roars became panic. Orders drowned in chaos. One by one, Dai Viet commanders fell. Letuk, being surrounded, and took 7 with him before the 8th struck him down. Pham Ku Chich refused to retreat, held the bridge so the king could escape, died on his feet. They died so I could run. But what do I do with that? Tran Tai Tong turned his horse. Behind him, shattered banners. Elephants screaming, men scattered. What was a formation became a memory. He gave the signal to withdraw, not out of cowardice, but out of necessity. It's a chance, a threat of survival. They win this field, but I am still alive, and the one who survives can take everything back.
I read Emperor Tran Tai Tong's decision after Dong Bo Dao as a ruthless act of strategic necessity. He saw Thonglong's granaries emptied and its defenses shattered, and he knew that any hope of defeating the invader hinged on keeping his army alive and united. By ordering the evacuation and scorched earth destruction of the capital and surrounding villages, he traded ground for time, denying the Mongols food, shelter, and local support. He understood full well that this policy would inflict great suffering on his own people, yet he judged the sacrifice preferable to the total collapse of Dai Viet's military and political order. In burning his own lands, Tran Tai Tong preserved the spirit of resistance, allowing his commanders to regroup at Tin Mac and strike back. It was a cold calculus. Better to lose fields than to lose the kingdom.
This is no conquest, this is a parade. Aju rides at the head of the column, armor gleaming, horse restless. Behind him, the city gates of Thonglong hang open. No resistance, just completely silence. They fled? He laughs aloud. So this is Dai Viet? These are the warriors we were warned of? He expected fire and bodies. Expected a king throwing himself against the storm like the fools of Dali. Instead, ghost streets, cold ashes, and empty shrines. He leads his horse through the heart of a hollow city. The banners of the Great Khan rise over abandoned towers. Soldiers cheer as they think the war is over. Aju smiles, but the smile fades. No victory ever feels like this. He finds no royal body, no army to crush. Just, still, quiet. Cowards, he mutters. Let them hide, let them run. When we catch them, they will beg us to bring back this silence. That night, the wind whistles through deserted corridors, and his scouts speak of shadows outside the walls. Something watching, moving, always just out of reach. In his dreams, he sees arrows in the dark, fire from the river, faces he cannot see, voices speaking a language that cuts deeper than steel. He wakes before dawn, sword drawn. Let them come back. I want the real fight. I want them to bleed. And so begins the waiting, not for a city to fall, but for a war to finally begin.
I believe that upon entering Thonglong, the young Mongol commander Aju sensed something was amiss. A silence too deep, a city too empty. He suspected a trap laid by Dai Viet. This moment of doubt marked him not merely as a cautious officer, but as a strategist of rare insight. In the years that followed, Aju rose to legendary status. 10 years after this campaign, he would play a pivotal role in the fall of the Southern Song, once one of Asia's wealthiest states. His instincts in Thonglong foreshadowed his future as one of the empire's greatest generals.
We gambled far higher than we ever should have, and the enemy proved mightier than even our darkest calculations. To meet the Yuan legions head-on was all but impossible, and countless warriors fell for that single flaw in my judgment. Remember when the Yuan envoys descended, demanding we kneel and let them march through our lands to crush the Southern Song? Had we complied, the Song would surely have struck us from behind. Had we refused, annihilation hung over every village. A counselor spoke of Western Shah, how that proud realm was erased, and urged we bind ourselves to the Southern Song instead. Troubled, I sought my revered uncle, Tran Tu Do, the architect of our dynasty. He told me with the calm of iron, "While I draw breath, you need not bend." And even as he soothed my doubts, he scoured the realm for genius. He found it in a young kinsman, Tran Quoc